The first food we're going to rehydrate is some well-aged medium cheddar cheese that was freeze-dried on February 26, 2020, and this has been a while. And we're going to need 1 pound of freeze-dried cheese. Now you could do less than a pound, but you'll just have to adjust the process for that amount. So here's the oxygen absorber, and that is quite well spent. One pound of shredded cheese comes to about 4 cups. In addition to the shredded cheese, whether it's cheddar or mozzarella or cheddar jack or Colby or whatever it's going to be, we're going to need 1 cup of water and another ½ cup of water, and we're going to need a dish towel, a clean dish towel, and I prefer cotton. So these are the tools that we're going to need to restore the cheese back to its original form. Now, rather than just go ahead and do this, I would like to explain a little bit the science behind what we're doing. So we're going to take this towel. Now this towel is absolutely dry, but we need to restore the moisture back to this towel. And that's where we use the 1/2 cup of water. So we're going to put the 1/2 cup of water in the bowl with this towel and make sure it absorbs all the water. Okay, no more water in the bowl. So we're going to try to wring this towel out basically to help distribute the water throughout the towel. So this towel is now equally moist with 1/2 cup of water. So we're going to put that back in the bowl. Now we're going to take the 1 cup of water and put it onto the towel. This 1 cup of water is what the cheese is actually missing. Now you'll notice that this is going to be very, very wet. And it's going to be absolutely saturated with water. And that's a good thing. So we're going to take this soaking wet towel now, and we're going to lay it on a clean countertop. And we're going to fold it over, exposing just 1/3 of the towel. So you can kind of see where this line is right there. We're going to take our cheese and we're going to put 1/2 pound or 2 cups of cheese on this 1/3 section here. We're just going to sprinkle it over here like so. And we're just going to kind of guesstimate how much that's going to be. Maybe just a little bit more there. And we're just going to let it just kind of spread it around. And we're going to cover that with our towel. And on the other piece, we're going to put our remaining cheese on the other piece. Spread this around. And get the remaining third and cover that up. So we have half the cheese underneath this third, and we have half the cheese underneath that third. Then we're going to get this, we're going to roll it up like a burrito. just like that. Then we're going to get a gallon Ziploc bag. And we're going to put this big burrito into the bag, like so. Zip most of it, get it nice and tight. Zip the rest of it. So you have this little nice package, and we're going to stick this in the refrigerator, basically overnight, or for about 6 to 8 hours in a refrigerator. So it's been overnight, and we're ready to unpack our little package here. The first thing you'll notice is it's not so wet anymore. Remember when we put this in here, it was just dripping full of water. Well, it's not dripping with water anymore because the cheese has absorbed much of that water. When we open this up, I would get the largest tray or bowl that you can get. I prefer using this big cookie sheet. And I like having this kind of cotton dish towel. I guess you could use like terry, but terry has like those little loops in the fabric that I think the cheese would probably stick to. So if you get something that's smooth, I think the cheese will release itself a lot easier. So we're just going to go ahead and start shaking this out. You can see that it's going to start releasing on both sides. Now a lot of this will just come off. Pretty simple, but eventually we'll have to open this up and help remove the cheese. Kind of give you an idea what it looks like inside. I have this little favorite spatula I have that can kind of help scrape the cheese off the fabric. Just, working the fabric will help most of this cheese release itself. I really don't need that spatula at all. So here's the inside. You need to just kind of shake this, and you'll notice that this fabric, it's still moist and just slightly damp, but all that moisture has transferred back into the cheese. And depending on what the cheese is, the percentage, I think this is medium cheddar, which I think is around 35% moisture. Mozzarella can be as high as 55%. So it all depends on the type of the cheese. You can always Google that and see what's going to be. Okay, so here's our cloth now. It's pretty much cleaned off with all the cheese. So off that goes. We can just kind of gather up any loose crumbs here. But this is our cheese now, and you can definitely feel the difference. It's no longer crunchy, but it's nice and moist, and it's not sticking to itself. It's not melted. It's not dissolved. It's the way the cheese needs to be. And for a quick demonstration, what's the best thing you can make out of cheese? Toasted cheese sandwich. Wow, it looks like I'm almost out of bread here. So we're going to get a couple pieces of bread, and we're going to put a generous amount of cheese on top. Of course, the other side of the bread is buttered. That's why I'm trying to be careful not to get my hands buttered. And into the frying pan this goes. So this is hot off the grill, and I emphasize it is hot off the grill. So how is this hot for a grilled cheese sandwich? Nice gooey cheese, and you can't get gooey cheese when it's freeze-dried cheese. So this is exactly what you want in rehydrated cheese. Nice, hot, gooey cheese that tastes like a grilled cheese sandwich should. Only thing I'm missing now is tomato soup to dip my grilled cheese sandwich into. So, rehydrating freeze-dried cheese is pretty simple. It takes a little bit of time to rehydrate it, but you can bring back cheese, whether it's mozzarella for pizza, any type of cheese you want, it will come back. Now, freeze-drying cheese, it pretty much has to be shredded. You just can't freeze-dry a block of cheese. You need to get it into smaller pieces. But freeze-dried cheese for your food storage is a great thing to do. Has lots of protein, lots of calcium. So try it out. In addition to the medium cheddar, I also did mozzarella. Because one of the things I like is what I call cheese toast. To make one of my favorite snacks, you just get a piece of bread that's lightly toasted, and you sprinkle it with mozzarella cheese, which we now have. And then we add just a little bit of garlic salt. Not a lot, just lightly sprinkled garlic salt. And then zap it in the microwave just for a few seconds, just to melt the mozzarella. And then, yes, and this is very hot, but how's that for nice, hot, gooey, stringy mozzarella cheese toast? One of my favorite snacks to have. This is one of the best ways to rehydrate cheese and get the moisture back into it, so you can use it for cooking, snacking, whatever you want. Next is our hamburger patties, and these patties are about a year old. Now, hamburger patties, you can freeze dry them, but I would strongly suggest that you vacuum pack them to get all the oxygen out so that they don't go rancid. And once again, I'm going to use hot water to rehydrate these, and these will take some time to bring these back, and so it's pretty much one of those things that's going to take overnight to do. Now, the hamburger patties will have a tendency to kind of feel kind of dry when they're cooked again, because I mean, they've already been cooked, and we're going to cook them a second time. And so when they're cooked a second time, I'm going to drizzle these with olive oil to kind of get some moisture back, put moisture back in there to give them something a little bit juicy. So these will just go right into the fridge immediately until tomorrow. I have the hamburger out of the refrigerator. This was overnight. Going to drain off the liquids here. Lost a little piece there. Well, now that it has been rehydrated, one thing it's missing is the fat, and fat is flavor. So one of the things we're going to do, we're just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil over this just to kind of give back some of the flavor and some of the fat that we had prior to freeze drying it, because after I made this hamburger patty, I pressed it and patted it dry quite a bit prior to freeze drying to get rid of all the oil and all the fat. So I'm going to reintroduce that prior to heating it up. Now this has already been cooked, so I don't want to cook it too much, but I want to heat it up enough to melt the cheese. Now, if you're going to be making hamburger patties for freeze drying, basically you can just kind of just barely get these cooked enough to render the fat and then stop the cook. And then after you rehydrate them, you can finish the cook. So this is all ready to go onto the grill. You can put these onto a pan, put it on the grill. I have a gas grill outside. It's a nice day. So I'm just going to throw this on the grill, heat it up, and then we're going to finish it off. Now we have to assemble it. So I have my King's Hawaiian rolls, which I love. And I have my 1/4 pounder with cheese. I have my tomatoes out of the garden. And I have my pickles. We are foregoing the onions. Not that I don't like onions. Onions don't like me. And I have some lettuce. Lettuce is not from the garden. And then we have the ketchup. And yes, I have ketchup with my tomatoes. So here we go. Freeze-dried hamburger. Actually, I should freeze-dried hamburger with cheese. I love this stuff. I'm going to have a great time during the zombie apocalypse. But this is a great way of rehydrating hamburger patties. You just have to make sure, if you're doing freeze-dried hamburger patties, you know, pat the grease, the oils off the hamburger patties as much as possible. Put them in a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber and vacuum pack it. You want to get rid of all the oxygen as much as possible so that there's no oxygen to have the, so if there's any remnant of any grease or oil, it won't go rancid. These patties are over a year old, and no doubt if they can go for a year, they can go for several years. But hamburger patties, easy to rehydrate. Just remember, when rehydrating, you can keep them out of the fridge for 2 hours, but after 2 hours, they need to return into the fridge. And I'll just put some, you know, plastic wrap over them during that time period. Freeze-dried milk is a better product than powdered milk. Each quart of freeze-dried milk has 29 ounces of water. In this measuring cup, I have 112 grams of solids, and in this measuring cup, I have 112 grams of solids. But by volume, this comes to 1 cup of freeze-dried milk, and this one comes to 2.5 cups of freeze-dried milk. Both of these weigh exactly the same. If you use volume to measure your freeze-dried milk, you're going to get a different product. In this case, this freeze-dried milk powder is more compact than this freeze-dried milk powder, but yet they're exactly the same weight. This is why you cannot use volume in making freeze-dried milk. You need to go by weight. So in rehydrating milk, you need to use 4 ounces of milk powder to 29 ounces of water. And when reconstituting freeze-dried milk, you need to use hot water so that the hot water will dissolve the milk fats easier than cold water. At 29 ounces of hot water and 4 ounces of freeze-dried milk powder, you'll be able to reconstitute your milk back to its original form. And return it to the refrigerator to cool. When used at the proper ratios, 29 ounces of water, 4 ounces of milk powder, and then used hot water to reconstitute and chilled, You'll never know the difference between straight out of the dairy or straight out of the freeze dryer. You'll have a product that you can't tell the difference.